Hello, welcome to another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Chris Costa.
And I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
So Joanne, what should we cover tonight?
Well, we just released a new version of Enterprise, so I thought it'd be a good time to go over the changes that are in this release.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, maybe we can start. I know there was one at least in RFQ, and there's a few in estimating, so maybe we can start with those two modules.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, well, the first one is an RFQ. If I open up the RFQ module, it really is about being able to add a special component type, the generic non-printing component type. So now if I add a component, I've got the option here for a generic no printing component type, like you do in estimating order entry.
Okay.
And if I hit OK there, I actually have a template assigned to that specific component type, and I can bring that into an RFQ just like I could in estimating order entry. So now this RFQ will flow into estimating.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay. All right.
So let's take a look at estimating order entry.
Sure. Okay. One there was we had an ability in estimating order entry to take an estimate and copy it to a different database. Well, now we've got the same option with orders as well.
Great. Okay.
So we can take an order and move it from one database to another.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay. Another one is if we look at change orders and we add a change order, we've increased the description of the change order.
Okay.
It was set, I think it was 50 before, now it's up to 100, so it's doubled in size.
Great. Okay.
Okay. So that was one. And when emailing a quote report, and this I'll just be able to mention, but if you print the quote to the screen, when you email this as a PDF, now it's going to show the quotation name as part of the file name.
You mean the quotation number?
The quotation number, I'm sorry. So it'll show quotation with the number as part of the file.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
All right.
Okay. Maybe we could take a look. I know that there's several changes being done in the accounting modules.
Yes, there were in both AR and in AP. A couple there
so maybe we can take a look at those as well.
Okay. All right. So I'll close out of here, and we'll go into accounts receivable. A couple of them revolve right around the invoice, actually. And if I open up a invoice that I've already started with a couple things here. First of all, we've added an edit customer button. You obviously have to have a customer account on the invoice, and then you're able to hit edit customer. You can go out to the maintenance screen, make any changes here, provided you have rights to change the customer, which I would assume you would if you're on an invoice. So you can make changes here and save those changes.
Okay, great.
Okay. Another thing here, we added a copy button right on the invoice main screen. So what you can do is highlight a particular line item, push copy, and it's going to bring up a second copy of that line item.
Okay.
All right. You can obviously make changes to it and then save it, but it's just a quick way if there's a similar line item or maybe an exact replica, just copy it and duplicate it. Okay. Actually, I'm going to go back into that line item again. We did make a change to the quantities. We've defaulted the quantities to come in as 1 instead of 0. So the nice thing here is if you use a unit of measure as total, you don't have to go in and change the quantity.
Okay.
Before, if it was 0 and you had a total unit of measure, you had to at least put a 1 in for the quantity. Now you can just go right to the unit price and type in your total.
Okay. So is that a default only if you have total, or is that the default all the time?
That's the default all the time.
Okay.
Okay. And this next one revolves around, if I make this a partial invoice, and I save it, if I go back to the job closeout area, that partially invoiced job is going to show up here, even though that job isn't posted, or that invoice isn't posted yet. Previously, you had to post the first invoice before you could get the job to show up in that list. So now if you know you're going to have 5 invoices in a row for a single job, you can set them all up together.
Okay.
Before having to post the first one.
That makes sense.
Okay. And the last one, when you email a statement, and this is the same thing as emailing the quote, similar, it'll bring in the bill contact right on the statement by default.
Okay.
Okay, so when you email that report as a PDF, it'll pick up the billing contact and bring that into the to field on the statement.
Okay, makes sense too. Yep.
All right. And we do have a couple in accounts payable. Okay, I think that pretty much covered AR. We'll go into AP. Same sort of thing on the invoice. If I bring in a supplier, I have an edit supplier button. Okay, so if I click this, I can go in and make changes to the supplier. And I can save those changes again if I have rights to save the changes, and those will save right to the supplier screen.
Okay.
Okay. The next one, I'll just back out of here, is in the payment run area. We've added a new report here. It's called the print register. And what that will do, if I select a couple of invoices to pay, once I've selected them, I can print a report. And it'll just kind of give a list. Some people like to do a review, not on screen, but maybe with a piece of paper. It also groups the supplier by the totals for that supplier, and it'll give you a running total. The one caveat here is that if you do print the report out and go away for an hour and look at the report, if you close down the dialog window that has the invoices selected and make any changes, you'd have to then reselect the invoices.
So it's kind of a temporary report of what you're looking at when you're in there. Okay, makes sense though.
Okay. So I think those are the two for accounts payable. One thing in the general ledger I'll mention. Similar to the edit the customer, edit the supplier, if you're recording a journal entry transaction, if I have an account in here, I can edit that GL account. So if I realize the description's wrong, and you just want to change the name, I mean, there's not a whole lot you'd be changing here, but you can change the description maybe.
Okay. Makes sense.
All right.
Now I understand there's some things in scheduling as well, a couple of options there.
That's it.
So we can take a look at that next.
Yeah, we can look at that next. Okay. We'll just back out of there. The first one was scheduling. First one, very simple, is a View Images button or an Images button was added to the top. And it's going to correlate to the highlighted job number you have at the bottom. So whichever job number you're highlighted on, if I click the Images button, it'll let me view any images that are on that job.
Okay, makes sense.
All right. Another one, up in the rules, there's an option that's existed here called Bind All, and that just kind of helps prioritize the order of how things are scheduled. Anything before a Bind All process, then everything that's set to Bind All, and then anything that's specifically at the cost center that's set to go after the Bind All.
Right.
So it would order in those three directions anyway, but now it's going to work with linked components as well.
Okay, so if I have two components that are linked, it will look at those options within the linked and then do the remaining ones after.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So it just kind of keeps everything in that priority.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, and the last one with scheduling would be up in the cost center view. Okay. There's a field in this grid. It's called production quantity. If I scroll out a little bit, you'll see it here. Okay, so each job is going to record the production quantity. Now, if I took this job and I moved it from this cost center to another cost center, it will actually take that production quantity and move it to the original production quantity on the other cost center so that you can keep track of it.
Okay, so I could pull that field, original production quantity, into the data grid and see what it was on the other, from the other original cost center. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Makes sense. Yep.
Okay. All right.
All right. Now I know that there are also a bunch of changes in the new CRM module.
Yes, there were
so
a
if we
few
could
there too. Yep.
cover those.
Okay. All right, so I'll back out of scheduling. We'll go to CRM. Okay. A couple things here. If I click on the Invoices tab, okay. Previously, you didn't have a way to expand this to see all transactions. You only had live, unposted, future, and dead.
Okay.
Okay, so now I can actually get to see all.
Okay.
Okay, so a little bit more ability to expand there. Okay. We've also added a print button here as well as a batch print button. So you can now take a invoice here, highlight it, and click print, and print the invoice. If I hold the Shift key down, I can highlight and click Batch Print, and I can print the selected invoices, or I could email those selected invoices. So I could actually grab a group of invoices. Right now, it's just for this customer.
Okay.
And I can choose Batch Print and either print directly to the printer or email.
Great.
Directly to...
and it would attach multiple invoices to the one email?
Yes.
Okay.
If you've got a bill contact on that customer, they'll all go to that contact for that customer.
Okay, great.
Okay. And we've also added a couple of options up at the top for batch print. And this really is geared to statements at the moment. So what this is going to do is bring in and allow you to see invoices for customers that have obviously a balance greater than 0, and let you take these invoices and automatically print statements.
Okay.
Okay, and the same thing we just talked about with the print invoice, batch print invoice. It'll let you either print them or email them.
Okay.
Okay, and you still do have an option in this window to grab the invoices that you want. Okay, so you can highlight the ones you want and just print off those. Okay?
Great.
And then even while you're in here, you've got toggles at the top, so if you want just a specific region or just a specific rep, or, and this is going to be a nice one here, the transaction age. Maybe you don't want to send everything, or the current ones, you only want to send maybe the 30 to 60 days, or the 61 to 90.
Okay,
okay?
Great.
So those are a couple things going on with CRM. So
great.
Okay. Any questions with any of those?
No, I think that was great. Is there anything else, or does that cover all of them?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, this was another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Chris Costa.
And I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
Please look forward to more to come.